You want the moon? Just say the word and I'll throw a lasso around it and pull it down.
Look at the stars. The great kings of the past look down on us from those stars. So whenever you feel alone, just remember that those kings will always be there to guide you.
I don't think it is very useful to speculate on what God might or might not be able to do. Rather, we should examine what he actually does with the universe we live in.
We are all explorers, driven to know what's over the horizon. The most profound discoveries are not necessarily beyond that next star. They're within us, woven into the threads that bind us.
Good morning and happy full moon in Leo. I'm so excited to have a Leo joining me for the live stream today. Welcome, Stephanie Campos. She is an astrologer, an amazing human being in general, an amazing follow on Instagram, and we'll put her handle up as well. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. And oh my goodness, was that Mufasa in the intro? I wasn't ready.
It was. It was Mufasa,
so
very Leo energy, right?
Yes, I love that.
Thank you. Thank you. So we're talking all about the full moon in Leo, which is actually happening as we speak right now. The moon is becoming full. It's very rare that the live stream coincides with the exact time of the full moon. So it's a special treat, not only that we have you on, but also that we're talking about the energy that is literally playing out right now.
Yes, absolutely. This is an exciting one.
Yes. Okay. So we're going to talk through the energy of the Leo full moon, what connections the moon is making, how you can apply this to your life, what you can be thinking about right now. But we're also going to go through each sign briefly and tell you what this full moon means for you. So get comfortable, get your cup of coffee, get ready to ask some questions. We'll be answering them as best we can. And let's just dive right in. So this full moon, of course, is in Leo, and I think a great place to start, since you are such a Leo-dominated person in your chart. You have, what, 4 or 5 planets in Leo?
I've got a lot of Leo placements. Yeah, rising, yeah, Sun, Mercury, Mars.
I love it.
Yeah.
So fierce. So I think you're the perfect person to just give a brief overview of what Leo energy is all about. Because for me, I have 1 planet in Leo. I have my Venus in Leo. It's in my 12th house, but I like having Leo people around me with my Venus in Leo, but I don't really embody. This is the most Leo thing I do, is wear this leopard print shirt whenever I do Leo content. So what's Leo energy all about?
You're nailing it. I mean, leopard print is definitely Leo energy. I have so many leopard jackets that my partner just abhors, and I will wear them to the grocery store. That's some peak Leo vibes. But no, beyond that, I mean, Leo is really about self-expression and authenticity and aligning with who you are at your core and your values, and just really showing up fully as yourself, not being afraid to take up space. And recently I've been just really reflecting a lot more on linking Leo with your inner child and finding that joy again. I think it's so important. It's something that we lose so often as we grow older, and we just get more and more disconnected from that childhood joy. So really inviting more play into your life, making sure that you're prioritizing fun is something that is very important for a little Leo's heart.
Absolutely. With every sign, with every transit, with every placement, there's a light and a shadow. There's a positive and a negative, right? I think a lot of times when people are first getting into astrology, they're like, oh, that sign, or, this sign is bad, or whatever. So there are positives and negatives. And something that I first kind of learned about Leo energy was that it's most commonly associated with the ego, right? It's ruled by the sun. The sun, you know, in a lot of cultures is associated with the ego or consciousness. And with the state of the world, a lot more people are getting into like mental health and understanding psychology. And ego has kind of gotten a bad rep over the past couple of years because I really feel like our ego is necessary and it kind of embodies that Leo essence, right? That like inner voice and that it's almost that confidence or that courage within all of us that, yes, sometimes can make us a little overly confident, a little overly dramatic, but also we need our ego in order to like show up as confident people in the world.
Yeah, I think Leo energy definitely gets a bad rap of being selfish and self-centered and self-absorbed. But I think a lot of that spending time with yourself can be a courageous act. You know, diving deep into your psyche. It can come off as like self-obsessed, but it's also almost wanting to really understand who you are underneath everything and get intimately familiar with even the ugly sides of yourself so you can really have a better understanding of how to move forward and just be a better person, a healthier version of yourself. So
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah, I love that interpretation too. Being alone is an act of courage, really, honestly. So, yes, this full moon is really going to activate just what you were talking about too, because of the connections it's making. It's really giving us a glimpse of our shadows and our light. And that's what I'm feeling playing out. As I pull up the chart here, I just want to ask you, how is this full moon feeling for you so far, especially as a Leo and a Leo rising? This is really lighting up your first house. What's it felt like over the past couple days?
Well, when the moon is opposite Saturn, which was yesterday leading up to the full moon, those transits have just been so heavy. You know, Saturn is a planet of restriction, burden, challenges, hardship. It can feel like rejection. So I was moody as fuck yesterday. And,
Me too.
you know, it's definitely feeling a lot of things. I think this full moon in particular is exactly on top of my Mercury and Mars conjunction in my first house. So it's pulling in themes from that part of my birth chart. But yeah, you know, like I just officially changed my name and reinvented my identity. And that is, you know, with what has been aligned with who I am on the inside and growing up, you know, really being a major part of my mom's family and sharing that with the world and coming out and expressing like, this is who I am, this is who I've always been. And that's kind of how one way the full moon has been showing up for me.
Yeah, you have this whole new sense of expression. So, like I said, we'll go through each of the signs, but if you're a Leo, Leo rising specifically, you're probably going through something similar to Stephanie. You know, kind of this renewed sense of self when you have a major transit like this in your first house. So, I'm going to pull up the chart here and we'll talk about some of the aspects the full moon is literally making right now. You can see it on the chart. The moon is full at 27 degrees in Leo. So if you have a copy of your birth chart handy, this is a great time to get it out and just take a look at where the end of Leo falls, what house it falls in, what else is around there, maybe what's opposite to that. That could give you some insight specifically on how this full moon is going to affect you. But when we chatted about this a few days ago, I think you described this full moon as faded because of the connection with the North and South node. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, so this full moon is happening at what's called the bendings, the nodes of fate. So we have the North Node and the South Node, which are points in the sky that represent the South Node is like an area of release, and the North Node is an area of increase. And when we get the luminaries, the sun and the moon, closer and closer to those points, that's when we get eclipses. But right now, they're forming an exact angle, a square. So they're at cross purposes. And these can be crisis points. And it's really important to pay attention to themes, people, conversations that are coming in and out of your life at this time, because there can be a faded element and a deeper purpose with what's going on.
Yeah, I really see this as like a crossroads, right? The North Node kind of being the direction that you're destined to go in this lifetime, the lessons you're destined to learn here, and the South Node being more of that familiar energy, maybe the lessons you already came into this life knowing, even could represent some shadows. So this full moon is like very dramatic in Leo. It's theatrical. All the themes it's bringing up are probably going to come up in a very big way. You know, it's not going to be this subtle hint of what you should be looking at. The Leo moon is like, hello, we're here. This is what you need to pay attention to. And this square to the North and South nodes can bring tension and really force us to make a decision or kind of figure out like what direction are we heading. That's kind of how I see this going. But if you've already had moments, kind of like Stephanie was talking about, that feel faded or that feel important, either intuitively or rationally, you know something important is going on, paying attention to the people, paying attention to the emotions that are coming up, I think that can be helpful in navigating tense transits like this, just paying attention to what's coming up for you. How do you navigate when you know, like you were just talking about the moon opposing Saturn yesterday? For me, it's like I forecast these things every day. I know that it's going to be a little bit melancholy or depressing when that happens. And it helps me. It helps me move through it. Usually, I've been super moody too. But how do you handle when you know, okay, this is an important moment or a tense transit?
Yeah, I think transit tripping is a big thing in the astrological community. You know, we have
I love
the
that, transit
ability.
tripping.
I can't remember where I heard that from, but yes, some other astrologer definitely coined that. But yeah, you know, just getting ahead of ourselves. We have this language of the stars and the cosmos, and we can anticipate when we're going to have periods of difficulty, stress, and I think the best thing to do in those moments is really surrendering and being present. Focus on your self-care tools. Like what does that look like? I practice EFT tapping. That usually recenters me and brings me back into my body. Journaling, taking a bath, whatever, a meditation, like breath work, whatever you can do to kind of move through and just like allow the feelings to come up, I think the better.
Definitely. And you said surrender, which is so funny because you know, the moon was making really uncomfortable connections all day yesterday. It makes some tense connections all day today, even though we have this full moon. And people who just kind of scratch the surface of astrology usually are like, oh my God, a full moon, yay. But it's like the energy around this full moon is pretty tense with all these different connections. Even later today, when the moon moves into Virgo, it makes this uncomfortable, imbalanced angle to Mercury. And so as I was looking into this the days leading up to the full moon, I just kept getting that message. Surrender, surrender, surrender. Discomfort is an opportunity to surrender. You know, we're not in control here. And really with the state of the world too right now, it's like it feels like, are we at the tail end of this pandemic? We don't know. Maybe. What's going to happen next? There's like all of this uncertainty right now. And it's almost palpable with what's going on with the transits, astrologically, you know. And on that note, the full moon, at the same time as it forms a T-square to the North and South node, it also makes this awkward angle, this imbalanced angle of Quincunx to Pluto, the planet of death and rebirth, the planet of change. And I feel like that is that kind of uncomfortable awareness of all the transformation going on around us, of our own shadows, of the collective shadows, and really what we need to let go of in order to move forward and fully release, as the moon is now in its releasing phase. How are you seeing this Quincunx to Pluto playing out at the same time as all of the other energy?
That is a fascinating interpretation. I don't usually work with inconjuncts, but that totally tracks and makes sense. I've been thinking a lot about, you know, when the sun is in Aquarius, it's in detriment in traditional astrology. And that is generally because the sun is Leo's ruling planet. You know, Leo likes to focus on the self and shine and take up space. And in Aquarius, our focus is more on the collective versus the individual. So Aquarius is also ruled by the planet Saturn, which has very opposite motives than the sun, and is intimately familiar with boundaries and structures. But unlike Capricorn, it's not focused on maintaining those boundaries and structures. It's interested in progress in the collective. And I think, you know, Aquarian energy is very familiar with also what it's like to be othered or marginalized. So that is something definitely to focus on and think about and reflect deeper on in this full moon is, you know, the community aspect versus your individual impact, the we versus me energy. How are structures that in place? How do they benefit the collective, or do they benefit you? Leo's has an association with royalty, and with that comes privilege. So I think elevating conversations about privilege, about the structures in place, the patriarchy, white supremacy, just all of these structures that don't serve the higher collective and good are incredibly important to reflect on all the time, but especially when we have an active Aquarius transit. And we're also inching towards the US's Pluto return, you know, the exact hit of it. So that's something that's been building for years. But really, we are going to be in the absolute midst of facing these shadows and our collective shadows and our past, you know, so.
Definitely. Something I've seen from other astrologers, you know, I'm sure you experience this as well. We follow a lot of other astrologers on Instagram, and anytime there's a full moon or a new moon, it's like my whole feed is just different full moon interpretations, which I actually love. But I've been seeing a lot of people talking about, you know, shining brightly under the Leo full moon and fully expressing yourself, which is awesome, totally tracks. I love it. But something you just said made me think, you know, as the full moon is forming this awkward angle to Pluto, kind of making us uncomfortably aware of our shadows, I think part of that is privilege, right? What privileges do you have, regardless of the color of your skin, your socioeconomic status? But also, it's not just about the self being able to shine brightly and show up authentically. How are you creating an environment that allows everybody to do the same, right? Are you showing up in a way that makes other people feel comfortable being their full, authentic selves, being able to shine, being able to share what makes them unique? Not only because we're in Aquarius season, and that is very expressive of our idiosyncrasies, our eccentricities, but also under this Leo full moon, really emotionally illuminating us wanting to express ourselves. You know, I think the reason this full moon feels so dramatic, and not only because of the connections it's making, is because Leo like wants us to show up. It wants us to have the courage to just put ourselves out there and be bold, but the full moon's connections are showing us, okay, what's holding us back from doing that? You know, whether it's our own internal shadows, our limiting beliefs, or the people we surround ourselves with, you know, the community you're involved in. So that's something to think of as well. Not only like how are you showing up and how could you show up that feels more authentic, but how can you create an environment for everybody in your community to do the same. So
I love that.
Yeah. And then the other, this is like, I keep saying this is the saving grace of this full moon, because truly, you know, when I say this has been dramatic, it has felt super dramatic for me. And I try to be aware of, like, I know that I'm experiencing things, you know, through my own lens, and I don't want to project that onto everybody, but I've been hearing it from a lot of people, very moody, very emotional, just very intense. But the saving grace is this beautiful conjunction between Mars and Venus in the background in Capricorn. And that conjunction, Mars and Venus are like kind of hand in hand, waltzing through Capricorn together over the course of a month. But today is the day, actually 6:30 a.m. was when Mars and Venus made that exact conjunction. So do you think that that's kind of like helping us come back to love a little bit more easily amidst any drama that's playing out?
Absolutely. I mean, all full moons are going to bring up relationship dynamics. You have the luminaries in opposition with one another. So, and like we talked about with Aquarian energy being we and Leo energy being me, what are how are your relationships balanced? Like, are they skewing in one way? Are you too selfish? Like that, those are themes that can come up. But this extra emphasis on love and relationships is really going to be felt because the two planets of love. That is incredibly simplifying these two lovely celestial bodies, but they're meeting together exactly in the sky. And that only happens once a year. Usually that energy lingers for 7 to 10 days. But like you said, they're going to continue moving together through Aquarius, I think through the beginning of April. So we really have this opportunity for a fresh start with love, our creative pursuits, and like birthing new projects, just like what do we have the motivation and drive from Mars to go after these Venusian activities, which could be love, it could be beauty, it could be um, getting more realistic with our finances. But really, this is like potent creativity. And in the sign of Capricorn, that's a future focused sign that's really interested on the long term. So, if we put in the action, if we show up and are dedicated, like this is a pursuit, an endeavor that could last the test of time.
I love also that it's such an extended conjunction between Mars and Venus because it's carrying us into Pisces season. And, this can also add an air of reflecting on your values, reflecting on your motivations throughout all the transits that will play out over the next month, but especially under this full moon. And as we go into Pisces season later this week, it's a time where a lot of closure and endings and healings happen before the astrological new year, Aries season, in the end of March, beginning of April. So it's like this Mars-Venus conjunction right now, I feel like, is showing us like, okay, what do we need to let go of in order to fully align with love, in order to fully align with our values, our creativity, all those things you just mentioned, but also kind of giving us that stamina in Capricorn to start those new projects. And not that you can't start a new project or do something like that during Pisces season, but just the overall energy. It's really nice that it's carrying us into the astrological new year.
Yeah, and I think what you just touched on is so important that, I mean, we didn't name that full moons are about releases, endings, closure, culminations, periods of celebration. But it's that release, like once you create more space, you can call in more aligned opportunities. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you're breaking up, maybe it means a new, more responsible and dedicated and committed chapter in your relationship. But yeah, I just think that is important, that the more that we really release things that are no longer serving us and align with our path, that is when the universe responds and is like, here you go, here you go. So we start to see the blessings.
Absolutely. Somebody just asked, I just checked and my north node is at 27 degrees Leo. Should I be scared with this full moon transiting on the north node? What do you think about that?
You should never be scared. Astrology is a tool for self-empowerment and self-awareness. And yeah, you should never be scared. But I would say that if your nodes are activated, that's maybe kind of like a little mini eclipse for you. Like pay extra attention to the themes that come up today. That means that the nodes in the sky are also at the bendings of your nodes right now. So this is definitely a fated time. And, our north node generally is uncomfortable. We're not used to accessing the north node's energy. So if you can really reflect deeper on what does that north node in Leo mean for you? How can you allow yourself to shine and take up more space and call in more attention, and celebrate yourself, and just know that you're worthy? I think that would be a good way to use this energy.
But I think definitely a moment of fate or direction shift for you or something like that could be coming up. I don't know. Let us know how this is showing up for you already, because that's a pretty powerful little conjunction in your chart with this full moon right on your north node. But also, like, awesome that you pulled up your birth chart and looked at where 27 degrees is, because you know what I mean? Sometimes we're like, oh, we're so emotional, and it's often I'm like, why am I feeling this way? And then I look at my chart and I'm like, oh, that's why. This is what's going on, you know? So awareness is everything. Like you said, there's no reason to be scared about a transit. It's all about self-reflection, self-empowerment, like you said. And, you know, as uncomfortable as this Leo full moon might be, it is also a very empowering full moon too, inviting us to show up, inviting us to like really embrace our courage, our inner power. So, you know, even if it feels uncomfortable to do that, just lean into that discomfort a little bit. And especially for you with this full moon transiting on your north node, leaning into that Leo energy could be really powerful and really like help you move forward in whatever area you're hoping to move forward in.
Yeah, and I think that discomfort is a huge piece of this full moon. You know, Leo, with its ties to privilege and royalty, and it's used to comfort, and taking risks, you know, really stepping out of the box, standing up for things that you believe in. You know, Aquarius rules the ankles. That's it's all there. They have such strong ideals. They stand up for what they believe in. So really embracing that discomfort is important.
Yeah, and we didn't touch on this either, but Leo rules the heart. So, you know, with this Venus-Mars conjunction too, we're talking a lot about love. We're coming off of Valentine's Day. Really pay attention to what's on your heart under this full moon. Like, what do you keep coming back to emotionally, or what keeps coming up for you that you're getting kind of like this emotional ping about? Because that can also help you move through it or give you an idea of what to focus on. And Stephanie, you also touched on, you know, like relationships with the moon in a releasing phase, the potential for breaking up or deepening relationships, a shift in relationships. I also want to point out that we're still in Venus retrograde's shadow period now. Mm-hmm. So this can still bring a little bit of tension or conflict around your relationships, but also personally for me, it feels like if you made it through that Venus retrograde and Mercury retrograde, yeah, there still might be some snags coming up, but that was kind of like, I don't want to say the worst of it, but you know, the most like intense part of Venus's recent transits. Is that how you're feeling too?
Yeah, I mean, now is the time to implement the lessons of what you learned and to really align with what came up for you and how you want to change moving forward based on that. So, yeah, I think the intensity of Venus and Mercury retrograde, we're definitely still in the shadow period. So don't be surprised if there's still some hiccups, but it's just the last piece of your story unfolding. It's like a cosmic course correction.
Oh, I love that. Okay, so let's go through a little mini horoscope for each sign. Are you game?
Let's do it.
Okay, so just so everybody's on the same page, if you know your rising sign, pay attention to your rising sign. That's going to tell you what house this full moon lands in for you. But if you're not there yet, don't worry. You can pay attention to your sun sign and you'll still get some valuable information out of it or some insight. I'm a believer that like whatever information you're supposed to know, whatever you're supposed to hear is what the universe is going to send you. So whatever feels like it resonates, take it. If it doesn't resonate, leave it. Okay. I think we have to just start with Leos, right? Because this is your guys's like moment. This is a big pivotal moment in your sense of self-expression, just like Stephanie was talking about, because this full moon lands in the first house. So how do you see this full moon playing out for your fellow Leo risings?
Yeah, I mean, this is the first house is your sense of self, identity, your appearance, even like your passion projects, what really motivates you and excites you. So, and it's a release. So, you know, shifting how you want to show up in the world. It's a place of visibility. So how do you want to be seen? Do you want to release an aspect of yourself that is holding you back, that's limiting you? Do you want to change your appearance? Do you want to get a tattoo? Do you want to change the color of your hair? Like, this is really about aligning with who you, like, little you has always wanted to be, like, embrace that. So it's
I
definitely,
love that
yeah.
so much. I think that's, the more you do like inner child work or healing, having that like version of you in mind, little you, that's such a wake up call when you ask yourself, like, what would the 10-year-old version of me think of
Hmm.
adult Olivia, or even the 5-year-old version? That was a huge, for me personally, wake up call. Like when I started this venture and started these daily live streams, and then I looked at, like, I'm using a lot of pink and purple, and I'm like really leaning into my feminine and being girly. And then I was like, elementary school me would be so stoked right now if they saw
Oh,
this. You know what I mean? So I
yes.
think it's a great question to ask yourself, especially if you're a Leo rising, but regardless of your sign, what would the child version of you think about your current life? Would they be excited about it? And are you excited about it? Because we still have that little kid in all of us, you know?
Yes, yes. And I think just for the collective, Leo rising or not, inner child work, you cannot do enough of it. Like, if today is a wonderful day to spend time visualizing, doing a guided meditation, giving yourself the love you didn't receive, but you needed when you were a kid, like, those are all going to be really potent practices today.
Definitely, and definitely something to keep in mind if you're looking for a theme to lean into, or even a meditation. If you're looking for a ritual under the full moon and you like to meditate, the most amazing guided meditation I ever did, I can't even find it now, of course. It was like randomly, I searched 10-minute meditation, and inner child meditation came up, and it was literally life-changing. And I've tried to find it again to like send it out or share with people, and of course it was just a one-time deal for me. But yes, that's a
Yeah.
great point if you're looking for a meditation or even a journal prompt today.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to Cancer. This full moon is landing in the second house for our Cancer friends, which is the house of income, values, physical possessions. What are you seeing for Cancers and Cancer risings?
Well, I live with a Cancer rising, and he got a job offer yesterday. So that
Ah!
is one way this energy can manifest. Changes within your career, within your income, a possible promotion. Um, and then it can also, I think, be an emotional time, because in modern astrology, the second house is your self-worth. So maybe reflecting a little bit deeper on um, yeah, how do you treat yourself? How do you talk to yourself? And what does that look like for you on a daily basis? Are you really caring for your needs, or are you putting your needs on the back burner?
Yes, self-worth is going to be especially powerful, I think, because the full moon is in Leo, ruling the self. So really focusing on your own values. And a lot of people, you touched on modern astrology. A lot of people have now associated the second and eighth houses with manifestation, the second house being more of like the physical manifestation, and the eighth house being more of the energetic part of
Hmm.
manifestation. But and I think a lot of times too, with manifestation becoming so mainstream, people like to manifest under the full moon. But that's a really great point. Really get aware and reflect on your self-worth, because that does affect what you're calling in, what you're able to attract, right? You attract what you put out. So are you really feeling worthy enough for that dream you're trying to call in? And if not, like, you might be holding yourself back from your own manifestation. So how can you get more confident? How can you get more comfortable in yourself and more worthy in yourself, so you can call in that new income opportunity or more abundance physically around you? I think that's going to be really helpful if you're trying to manifest and you're a Cancer.
Yes, I love that. Security is a big thing.
Definitely. Okay, Gemini risings. This is a pretty on par full moon for you, because it lands in the third house, which is traditionally ruled by Gemini, all about learning, communication, siblings, even friendships. Some people associate with the third house. How do you see this?
Um, Yeah, I think this is definitely a mental lunation. So, really, either having conversations that you've been putting off that have taught, addressing things that matters of the heart that you, or even embracing more of your vulnerability. Gemini can get this bad rap of being surface level, but really having the bravery and the courage to speak from your heart and to express yourself in a more aligned way. Matters related to siblings. This is the house of transportation. Maybe you're getting a new car. Maybe your car is breaking down. But those are all things that could manifest under this lunation.
Totally. And pay attention to how you're communicating with other people as well, because this has felt really like a tumultuous full moon for a lot of people. Emotions are high regardless of what sign the full moon is in. And sometimes, because the third house rules siblings, it's a good note about how do we treat the people that we're most comfortable around? How do we talk to the people we're most comfortable around that we've been with maybe our whole lives? Because those are the people who tend to get the worst versions of ourselves, because we know that they'll love us no matter what. So really pay attention to how you're communicating, what you're sharing with the people who know you best. Are you showing up authentically to those people? Because if you can't be your full self to your siblings or your closest friends, then, of course, you're not going to be able to show up as your authentic self to a total stranger. So pay attention to what you're sharing, how you're communicating with your people. And also, is that true to yourself? Is how you're communicating really true to your essence and who you are at your core? All right, let's move on to Tauruses and Taurus risings. This full moon lands in the 4th house of home and family. So, how do you see that playing out for Tauruses and Taurus risings? I know your partner is a Taurus sun, right?
Yeah, so I mean, this could be big events related to the family, drama within family dynamics, changes within the home. Maybe you're looking for new roommates, maybe you're moving, maybe you are renovating your home. But this is also it's the lowest point in the chart. It's the most private point in the birth chart. And it's our psychological foundations and our ancestry as well. So this could be a time where you're really digging deeper into your lineage and where you come from and your family's history. And then also spending more time alone in solitude and reflecting deeper on your psychological makeup. Like, what are things that you've buried that need to come to light? The moon is literally lighting it up.
Oh, I love that. And kind of going off of the theme of the self with this full moon in Leo, understanding your roots better, your ancestors, your mother, your father, how you were raised can help you understand yourself better too, and express yourself more authentically and show up as the full version of you. I think a lot of times we have this little part of ourselves that we show to the world and the rest kind of stays behind closed doors. But it's when you can fully embrace your whole story, all of you, the shadows, the light, all of it, that I think that's where kind of true confidence comes from when you are showing up. Because the Leo full moon is a very external energy, which is kind of contradictory to the 4th house, like you said, being so private and focused on the home. But they play off of each other very well because, being secure privately helps you be more secure publicly or around other people as well.
And it's an angular house. So the angular houses in astrology are going to be more potent, and the astrological houses are on axes. So when it highlights one house, it's going to highlight the house opposite to it. And this is also your career house. So you may see movement and changes within your career or your reputation as well around this time.
Yeah, and also I think this is a good point to bring up the fact that Leo is a fixed energy, same with Taurus, kind of like you talked about the angular houses, because they're both fixed energies. And another astrologer I've had on, Celeste Brooks, talks about when the moon is in a fixed sign, pushing through something, like breaking through rather than breaking down. That's her little motto, which I think is really cute and also powerful.
I love that.
Because, yeah, it's fixed signs, fixed energy can be very like uncomfortable because you don't want to get out of that comfort zone, especially when we're talking about the fourth house of home and family. Like, it can really highlight where you've gotten comfortable, what makes you feel comfortable. But remember, we were also talking about discomfort a lot with this full moon. So reflect on, have you gotten too comfortable? Or are you not comfortable enough in yourself? Comfort is going to be a big theme for you if you are a Taurus or a Taurus rising.
Absolutely.
All right, let's move on to the fifth house and our Aries rising friends. Very Leo energy. Leo traditionally rules the fifth house. And I think actually, out of all the signs, Aries risings are probably going to have the most fun under this full moon.
Yeah, so fifth house energy is where we have our creativity. It's the house of fertility, but that's not just making humans, that is also birthing new projects. There's romance here. This is in traditional astrology where you find the house of sex. And risk taking, entertainment, sports, fun. Like, this is really, I just kept thinking, like, Aries risings, if they're in some type of like situationship, this is like a make it or break it moment. Like, you're either going to move forward with that person and probably make it official, or it's time to cut them out and move on. Like, this is kind of like the house of dating where you're really having fun together, you're getting to know each other, and then you're going to move on to the sixth house, which is where you put the work in to really have a foundation as a couple. So this is really a turning point, a romantic turning point, but also an opportunity to just like go out and have fun, take some risks.
Yeah, and being an Aries rising, there's an element of fire in your chart that rules your chart. Leo is a fire sign, very fiery energy. So for Aries risings and Aries, this full moon might actually feel a little bit more your speed. You're kind of like used to this energy, this very like fiery, expressive, outward projecting energy. But I like how you touched on relationships and love and romance, because I think it's also an opportunity. Again, going back to the self, are you showing up as your most authentic self in your relationship? If you're an Aries rising, there's probably a little bit of a need for like freedom or independence. So are you able to fully be yourself and be sovereign in your relationship and also contribute to the relationship and have fun with that person? And if you're an Aries rising, if you're not able to just like fully have fun with your person and go out there and, be your total raw, self, instinctual self, it might not be the best fit for you, actually. So again, this full moon with all the connections it's making is this point of fate, this moment of almost truth with the connection to Pluto and the north and south nodes. So it's really a time to ask yourself, am I having fun here? Regardless of your romantic status, wherever you are in life, am I having fun here? And if I'm not, why am I not having fun? Because we all deserve to enjoy our lives. And that's what the fifth house is all about. Enjoyment, passion, even a little bit of drama, right? That's what being a human is about, experiencing the full spectrum of emotions and of life.
Absolutely.
Okay, so Pisces and Pisces rising, you just touched on the sixth house being the house of routines, the house where you put in the work, wellness, fitness even. So this full moon might be illuminating your daily routine or kind of the structures in place to get you where you want to go. How do you see this playing out for Pisces?
When I think of my sweet and gentle Piscean beings out there, I think of boundaries. Pisces energy can be so giving. They want to enmesh themselves with others. They're empathetic sponges. And the sixth house is the house of work. It's the house of daily routine, but it's also the house of health. So how can you reflect deeper on your boundaries? Is a lack of boundaries causing an imbalance in your work-life balance, in your health? This is the axis of the 12th house is like the spiritual and the mental health, and then the sixth house is like the physical health. So I think this is a great time to really set boundaries within your work, within your daily routine, to shed habits that are self-defeating, that are holding you back from a healthier and more embodied version of your life. But really making small changes is what results in the ultimate prize. So really taking the time to think deeper on like, what do you do when you first wake up? Do you hop on your phone, or do you journal, or do you chug a glass of water? Like, just making small changes like that and being mindful is super important at this time.
I love what you said about boundaries. I think that's like the perfect message for Pisces, regardless of what's going on in the stars. And like, I'm just going to keep bringing this back to the theme of self. You have to fill your own cup up before you can help other people. And if you're a Pisces rising, you probably love to show up in that gentle spirit. Sometimes Pisces, though, can be a bit of a martyr, right? Like, why is nothing happening for me? I'm so giving, I'm so loving to other people. Why is everything always come down on me? I tend to see that with Pisces, and it's not necessarily a negative thing. It's because you're always thinking about other people. But this full moon is really a chance to fill up your own cup. Like you said, pay attention to habits. It's those, the sixth house is traditionally ruled by Virgo, and I am a very Virgo person. So it's all about the small parts, the details that make up the whole. What little things are you doing every day, even if it's just for 5-10 minutes? What little commitments are you making to yourself every day to fill your cup up so you can help other people and you can withhold taking on other people's emotions, right? Or experiencing other people's emotions, I should say, because if you're a Pisces rising or have a lot of Pisces energy in your chart, it's probably not even an active choice you're making to take on other people's emotions, you know? So really being aware of those energetic boundaries, of physical boundaries. And I think a great way to do that is to focus on the self. How are you taking care of yourself?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's move on to Aquarius risings and Aquarius suns. If you don't know your rising sign, this is landing in the 7th house of relationships. So this could be like a romantic full moon for you, actually, if you are an Aquarius, but also, you know, it's opposite your sign. Or your sun, I should say, if you were an Aquarius, or your rising sign. So there can be a little bit of this like, how, like, give and take, right? Like, how much am I giving? How much am I taking in relationships? What do you see for this 7th house transit for our Aquarius friends?
Yeah, I think it will bring up themes of partnership. So that will either be very much focused on your relationship and the balance within the relationship dynamic, or a lack of relationship and what is holding me back, and do I want to be partnered, do I want to be single, what is the balance between owning my unique quirkiness and my sense of self as an Aquarian, and then like, am I worried about getting lost within a partnership? So those can be some things. Also, like, I see the 7th house also with bringing up issues of codependency. So if you do have someone in your life where you just over text them nonstop, or you know, any issues related to codependency, this is a really good time to release and break those patterns and think deeper on that. This is also the house of one-on-one business contracts. So if you're a freelancer, if you work on big projects, you know, you could land a big project, you could have just wrapped up a big project. So sometimes it's not as sexy, but you know.
Yeah, any sort of partnership could be highlighted under this full moon. It's even friendships too. If you have like a really deep connection, or not even a deep connection, but if it's more of like a one-on-one relationship with someone rather than like a friend group situation, that could be highlighted certainly under this full moon. And again, it goes back to that sense of self. Do you feel confident in how you're showing up in those partnerships, in those relationships? And I love what you said about Aquariuses being very, you know, kind of wanting to march to the beat of their own drum and do their own thing, and being like, I don't want to be restricted by this partnership, or, you know, being linked to someone else necessarily. But remember also, part of being authentic is how you relate to other people. So Aquariuses can be very independent and just kind of like want to do their own thing, especially if the energy is uncomfortable. Like, a lot of my Aquarius friends are just like, peace out, like, I am out of here, I'm not dealing with this. This full moon could be a good chance to, instead of running away, really, with all the connections to the North nodes to Pluto, like, face the situation, ask yourself, how do I want to show up in relationships? Even if it does feel uncomfortable, can I push myself out of my comfort zone in order to deepen my relationships? And again, like relationships can be part of your sense of self. I know if you're an Aquarius, you're like, no, 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 I have to be independent. Like I cannot, my identity can't be tied with someone else. But how we relate to other people, again, is part of our identity. So remember that when you're thinking about all the ways that you're different. We get it. You're different, Aquarius risings. You're not the same as everybody else. Your relationship is not going to look the same as everybody else's, but it's still an important part of your life.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's move on to the 8th house and our Capricorn risings. Whew, this could be a pretty intense full moon for you if you're a Cap rising, especially because I feel for you if you're a Capricorn rising with all of the retrogrades happening in your first house. It's been a really transformative time for you. And I've heard that from a lot of Capricorn risings, like, what the hell is going on? This is a time I think that energetically you're going to be aware of the death and rebirth, the transformation that's been happening for you. How do you see this full moon playing out for our Capricorns?
Yeah, it's been a very intense ride, the beginning of 2022 for Capricorn risings. And this full moon is in the 8th house, which is a very confusing house. It is, and it rules many, many strange things, including inheritance, taxes, death, transformation, and our psyche, like things that we bury but we know about, or if the 12th house is like our unconscious and we're unaware of that type of energy, the 8th house is like, oh no, I know I'm fucked up in that way, but I don't want to talk about it. So when the luminaries are lighting up this axis, it is a wonderful time to tap into vulnerability and intimacy with other people, to really, which guarded Capricorns may not be super comfortable with, but it's important to connect with others, to merge with others, to reflect deeper on your psychological makeup, similar to the 4th house. This is it's a private place, but engaging in talk therapy, engaging in some type of self-care practice, whether it's journaling or anything that you can do to start moving through some of these emotions and bringing them out from underneath the rug is very beneficial at this time.
Yeah, definitely get intimate with yourself if you're a Capricorn rising under this full moon. And, like you said, Capricorns can be more guarded, especially Capricorn risings, because that's kind of that outer appearance you put out, or that first impression you give off is like, don't come near me. Like I am in my safety zone. Don't fuck with me. But allowing other people in, allowing yourself to really go there and ask yourself, what are the shadows that are holding me back, especially with a full moon making this imbalanced angle to Pluto in Capricorn and the Venus-Mars conjunction happening in Capricorn in your first house. There's a lot of change still happening. There might be some new passions on your heart, or new creative endeavors, new love that you're experiencing with the Mars-Venus conjunction in your first house, but you won't be able to fully appreciate all the benefits of everything happening for you right now after this transformative season, or during this transformative season, if you don't allow yourself to really get intimate and go within and ask, why is this happening for me? What do I need to release? Energetically, where am I still holding myself back? The 8th house is a lot about energy. So doing that shadow work, releasing limiting beliefs so you can fully embody the transformation that has been happening for you. A Capricorn rising's like, hold on, it's going to get easier, I swear. But this is a really powerful time for you if you're a Cap rising. And I always say this, but these transits are happening for you, not to you. There's always an opportunity for growth regardless of your sign. So just hang in there if it feels intense.
Yes.
Okay, 9th house, we have our Sag risings. And again, a house that feels very at home for Sag risings, a very expansive full moon for them.
Yeah, so the 9th house is about higher learning, spirituality, travel, and our perspective on the world, politics and the state of the world. This is a great time to tap into your spiritual side. If you have interest in taking a astrology class or a tarot class or any type of divination or magic class, this is a wonderful time to really reflect on your spiritual side. Are you only focusing on your mental and physical health? Well, your spiritual well-being matters too. So that can be a focus under this full moon. And then also travel can be mental travel, but it can be physical travel. So maybe you're planning a trip, maybe you want to go somewhere, or maybe you want to take a psychedelic journey and have some visions and realizations occur. You know, this is really a powerful time to shift your mindset, to shift your perspective, to put yourself in other people's shoes, to really tap into that Aquarian energy of what it is like to feel alienated. How can you embrace other people's perspectives and form a deeper understanding? And how does that inform your worldview and perspective moving forward?
I see this as a very expansive full moon in all of those areas. So it could be this moment today that's very expansive, or some information or opportunity that comes in that's like, wow, this is going to take me to the next level, or this is an opportunity to level up. If you are faced with a situation like that, it's most likely a sign from the universe that you are ready to level up in whatever area that is. But if you don't have something sort of fated happening for you, a good question to ask is, how do I want to grow? How do I want to expand over the next 6 months, over the next year? Really just thinking about, and that could be a travel opportunity. That could be, like you said, a new course. What do you want to learn, and how do you want to push the envelope of your comfort zone? Because when we talk about self-expression, you know, we're always evolving, we're always growing. So how do you want your self-expression to evolve? Part of that is, you know, your own learning, what you're willing to take in so you can, you know, put it out there. Mm-hmm. Okay, 10th house, Scorpios and Scorpio risings. This looks like a career opportunity, I think, or some sort of long-term opportunity coming your way.
Yeah, it's an interesting combination for a Scorpio rising because Scorpios risings are generally more private. But this moonlight, you are in the spotlight. You are at the tippy top of your chart. You are at the most visible place in the sky. So this is a period of recognition, celebration, promotion, especially when it comes to career matters and reputation. If you're a content creator, maybe your post goes viral. You know, someone's recognizing you at work. Maybe you're giving a big meeting or leading a big meeting today. This is a time to take up space and to really sit with the discomfort of being in the public eye, because you do deserve to have that recognition, even if it's a little uncomfortable.
Oh, I love that so much. Really pushing the comfort zone for our Scorpio rising friends, definitely. And again, I'm going to go back to that awkward angle to Pluto. Modern astrology, your ruler, Scorpio, is Pluto. So it's probably feeling a little bit uncomfortable. Like it might be weighing on your heart. Like, I want to show up. I have this beautiful thing I want to share. I have this expression that's so important to the world. But it's gonna force you a little bit to like, okay, I've got to take that step. I've got to find that inner courage under this Leo full moon to express authentically and to know that I am worthy of showing up. I have something important to share. So really think about what's holding you back from showing up. Or if you are feeling more aligned and you're like, okay, I've cracked the code, this could look like a job promotion or a major opportunity coming up for you. But again, all these transits, they'll meet you where you're at, you know? So if you're not feeling comfortable being seen, the universe is probably not going to give you an opportunity to be seen even more. It's all about, if you're a Scorpio rising too, there's part of you that likes going into your like inner workings, you know? So really get in there and be like, why am I feeling a little guarded, or why am I not wanting to show up? How is that holding me back from this promotion or from long-term opportunities?
Absolutely.
Okay. Last couple houses, Libras and Libra risings. This is going to land, the full moon is going to land in your 11th house of community, and a really beautiful moment for Aquarius season because the 11th house is traditionally ruled by Aquarius. So I think really issues of the collective are going to come up for our Libras.
Yeah, and that, it's also the house of friendship and benefactors and networking. So, an 11th house in traditional astrology is a very benefic place, and you may have shifts and changes and dynamics with your friendships or groups that you're a part of. You might receive some kind of opportunity from someone you're networked with or a friend. But this is definitely a time to focus on your friendships, focus on the balance within your friendships. Are you showing up more for someone than they're showing up for you? Um, are you in a group that allows you to take up space and be seen, or do your values align with the groups that and the friends that you associate with, or how does that impact your worth and who you want to be? So those are some larger questions.
Something that's been coming up for me a lot too when like working and observing Libra energy is that, Libra is a cardinal sign. Libra is the leader of the air signs, even though Libras get this reputation for being unsure and not being able to make decisions, which is, I have a stellium in Libra, so I can attest to being
Hmm.
indecisive. But I think Libras who are really fully in their power have this beautiful way of being a gentle leader. And, some of my greatest mentors are Libras, and they just so naturally and effortlessly can lead people because of their gentle nature. So this full moon in Leo and Libra energy really complement each other really well. And I think this full moon in Leo is also asking you, how can you show up more confidently and be a leader in your community or in your friend group? And that might be sharing your voice about something you were unsure if it would land okay. It could be being a little bit more outspoken than you're normally used to being because you don't want to rock the boat. You might be a little bit of a people pleaser if you're a Libra rising. So really leaning into that leadership quality, and like Stephanie said, taking up space, not being afraid to take up space, because again, like, your voice is important. And even if you don't feel like it, Libra risings, there's part of you that is ready to lead and is a natural born leader. So just ask yourself, are you showing up as the leader you have the potential to be?
Yes, it's totally time to rock the boat.
I love that. Especially, I mean, the Pluto return, the exact Pluto return is next, I believe, Tuesday, the 22nd, 2/22/22. Such a fated
Mm-hmm.
day. And, issues of the collective, issues of our government, our structures, all these things have really been coming up, and we're very aware of them during this full moon, not only with the pandemic, but with social justice issues. So, you know, with this full moon landing in your 11th house, those issues are probably going to come up for you a little bit more too if you're a Libra rising. And again, don't be afraid to share your voice and how you feel and be a leader in your community, regardless of what other people think about it?
It's about doing the right thing and acting from a heart space. Yeah.
Yes. And last but not least, Virgos and Virgo risings. This full moon is in our 12th house. And I think, as this is going through my own 12th house, I'm a Virgo rising. It's been a very emotional full moon for me, much more emotional than a normal full moon usually is, because the 12th house is, it's very Pisces energy. It's very sensitive. We're psychically more sensitive, but also emotionally we're more sensitive. We're aware of our mortality. We're aware of what's beyond this physical plane, this physical lifetime, and that can be a little bit emotionally overwhelming. So, Stephanie, what do you see for Virgo risings? What advice do you have for me?
I mean, it's also the place of self-undoing, and it's the place of, traditionally prisons, hospitals, and confinement. So how I think it's a very powerful time to reflect on self-talk, limiting beliefs, self-defeating behaviors, um, diving deep into as deep as possible into your psyche, because this is your subconscious. This isn't like the eighth house. You're not aware of all of these patterns, but taking the time and energy to focus on what's holding me back from, you know, having a more aligned path and from expansion and abundance. This is a powerful time to eliminate behaviors that no longer serve you, to be mindful of how you speak to yourself, because that energy carries and manifests into the tangible. So And it's also a place of solitude and rest and closure. So sometimes there's endings that are coming along with that. And yeah, there's endings are hard. Everybody has them, and it could be any type of ending. But saying goodbye to a piece of yourself or a part of yourself that just isn't gonna help you moving forward. So it's a very emotional time. It's a great time to tap into meditation practices or spiritual practices as well, just to find some grounding as well, and make sure that you are getting lots of rest, drinking lots of water.
All things I definitely needed to hear. So thank you. Yeah. It's those themes have all been playing out for me. And really, like you said, I've already had situations come up that have really forced me like, whoa, I didn't realize that was there. Like I didn't realize that belief was there, or that fear was there too. Sometimes fears can come up for the 12th house. Mortality has come up for me a lot during this full moon cycle, because like you said, it's the subconscious. And most of us, I do have a Scorpio moon, so like mortality is something I'm a fan of getting into, but most of us don't walk around every day thinking like, how am I going to die? Or how long do I have? Or, those things, but they live in our subconscious. Those fears, I think all of us on some level are a little bit afraid of death, so my own mortality has really been coming up for me as a Virgo rising, and the mortality of the people I love. And also just like, we have this one beautiful life, this one opportunity, at least, this lifetime that we'll remember. How do we want to use it? What's holding us back from really expressing ourselves, not only under this full moon, but in this whole next phase we're going into? The next full moon will be in Virgo. So it'll be lighting up your first house. And that's why this kind of could look like an ending or a closure of something, maybe a cycle that needs to be ended or needs to be put in the past, so you can go into the next full moon with this like renewed sense of energy and ability to transform.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. Let's, I'm looking at some of the comments. You should celebrate and focusing on good things in your mind. Thoughts are seeds we collect in the future. Focused in yourself more right now. Love the energy, yep. Sandro. Great tips. Bailey's a Virgo, so you're probably feeling what I'm feeling a little bit. Oh, wow. I didn't even think mortality was an issue, but I realized that is maybe a subconscious reason why I'm always in a hurry. What a realization. Yes. Oh, and especially as a Virgo too, we're like, go, gotta do. We're like very like cramming all the things into our day, or at least I do that. But why are we in such a hurry? Who's running out of time here? You know what I mean?
Capitalism. Yeah. But absolutely. I mean, and I love the mortality piece. Like, death is such a taboo topic, and it's something. My 2021 was marked with 2 very important deaths in my life, but it was also, and yeah, sure, difficult, hard, grief, but those periods were life-changing. And becoming intimately familiar with that process and surrendering to that process and your mortality and the mortality of people you care about is going to be so impactful and significant, and able to, like, once you're talking about the next full moon in Virgo, like that's when you really can step into a fuller version of yourself.
Yeah, step into your purpose for sure. And one more thing I want to add, because it has helped me. If you are experiencing closure, endings, or mortality, death are coming up for you, regardless of your sign really, but especially if you're a Virgo rising, the 12th house is also associated with spirituality and kind of what's beyond the veil, what's beyond this lifetime, like I said. So for me, dealing with mortality and understanding death, it's been a lot easier the more connected I am to my ancestors, to a spiritual practice. For a long time, I didn't really have a sense of what's outside of this lifetime. Where are the people that I loved after they are no longer here on earth? And for me, a lot of my spiritual awakening has been creating those connections with my ancestors, with my family members who passed on, asking for the signs, knowing that I'm protected, knowing that I'm guided, and and it has made me less afraid to die. Honestly, I'm like, now if I die, I'm going to come haunt you all. Or
yes. Oh my gosh, yes.
Signs.
That's my favorite thing to tell my family and friends. I just can't wait to haunt you.
Right? Like, trust me, you'll be hearing from me. If you don't believe in ghosts or you don't believe in spirits, like, you will after I die.
Yeah, I love that.
So just knowing too, you know, if you're not a super religious or spiritual person, this full moon could be an opportunity, especially if you're a Virgo rising. You might be a little bit more practical. This full moon could be an opportunity to just open your consciousness, maybe ask for a message from a grandparent or a loved one who you were close with, who's passed on, and see what happens. They might get back to you sooner than you think. So, you know, if, like I said, if death is coming up for you, I recommend trying to have a conversation with a ghost or a spirit.
I love that. I love that.
Okay, so the last thing I just want to touch on really quick is that the full moon, it's full right now. Then it pretty much goes void for the next couple hours, and the moon enters Virgo at 1 p.m., I believe. Yeah, right around 1 p.m. Pacific time. So the moon will be in Virgo, actually, over the next couple days. And the only connection the Virgo moon makes today is at 3 p.m., right after it moves into Virgo. It forms that imbalanced, awkward angle to Mercury. So I just want to bring this up because you know, this is a pretty powerful, intense full moon. Passions could be high. You could have these realizations. It's like I said, it's this like fated moment with the north nodes involved. So this afternoon, when the moon moves into Virgo, we can be more analytical, more critical, and you might be trying to make sense of everything, you know, especially with this awkward angle to Mercury. We're like, I really want to get it. I want to understand why everything is happening right now. That's probably not going to happen. So I just want to put that out there. Like, if you're kind of like reeling by this afternoon, like what has happened over the past couple of days, or, you know, these realizations I'm having, they seem really intense. Just give yourself some time, give yourself some grace, because like, I think this is a good point to talk about integration. How do you view integration when it comes to profound downloads, insights, especially when they correlate with the transits?
I think especially for a full moon, I mean, it's part of a larger cycle. So really having that patience and knowing like you don't just get instant answers. You're not going to just figure it out, no matter how much you're overthinking. Like it would be beneficial to try as much as possible to release any overthinking that does come up, because the full moon is part of a larger cycle. And now we're going to be feeling that energy, you know, over the course of the next 2 days, even. Like you can tap into this full moon energy for full moon rituals or whatever, really while it's like moving through Virgo. So, you know, we're still experiencing the full moon today and possibly tomorrow. So, you know, if something doesn't happen today, that's okay, but just give it some time.
Yeah, you don't have to have it all figured out today. And if you're somebody who's looking for rituals, manifestation, the perfect time to do it, anytime today, tonight, under the full moon, even over the next couple of days, the moon's power will still be very potent. So you can still do, if you're seeing this and you're like, oh my gosh, I missed the full moon, you can still use the energy of the full moon over the next couple of days. And the themes of the full moon in Leo will likely still be playing out, because this is such a powerful lunation. But also when the moon moves into Virgo, again, like avoiding overthinking is great advice. Especially if you have a lot of Virgo placements. The moon will be moving across those placements over the next couple of days and could really put you in a head spin. I'm like, kind of, what did you say about that word, the transit?
Transit tripping.
Transit tripping. Don't transit trip. I'm saying that for myself too.
I love it.
All right. Yeah. Any last thoughts on the Leo full moon or anything you want to share?
Just have fun today. Just make sure you do one thing that lights your inner child up. That is the best way to access this energy.
I Love that. I think that's so important to mention. And while I have you here, I'm going to pull up your Instagram feed really quickly, and I would love
Okay.
for you to share how people can work with you, what you have coming up, just why people should follow you. You should follow her because she has amazing content and the best takes on
Oh.
astrology. But how can people work with you? What should they know about you?
Yeah, so I am an astrologer and a witch, an energy practitioner. I'm in the process of launching a one-on-one cosmic coaching program, so stay tuned for that. It will blend astrology, EFT tapping, and energy work. And I also offer end-of-life energy work, so people who are transitioning work with their loved ones for a more graceful and peaceful transition to the other side.
That is so beautiful. I didn't realize you did that.
Yeah.
I just have to say, I've been following you for, I don't know, probably like 2-ish years, maybe a little longer than that now. And I have kind of witnessed this transformation. I feel like this full moon in Leo is kind of this like pivotal moment for you where you're getting ready to birth new offers into the world and kind of you're like stepping past just the astrology component. You're like, I have all these things to share, all this knowledge to share. I've watched you go through trainings over the past couple years too. And I know we're just becoming friends now, but I'm like, I'm proud of you. I'm like, this is so cool.
Oh.
You're like my friend, and I get to see you just like continue to blossom, but also continue to post hilarious content at the same time because we can do both, right?
Yes, thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, I will always be a memer, in my heart. But yeah, definitely ready to embrace a new era.
Yes, I'm excited to see it play out. So definitely follow Stephanie if you're a fan of astrology or all things witchy, all things esoteric and spiritual. She's an amazing follow. And just thank you so much for joining me today, for sharing your wisdom, for bringing all of your amazing, gorgeous Leo energy to the live stream. I was like, who do I need to have on for the Leo moon? And you're always posting about like your Leo placement. So I was like, Stephanie, it has to be.
Oh, it was a pleasure. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right.
And
And thank you.
happy full moon.
Happy full moon. Remember to have fun. That is an assignment from the Leo herself. Have a little
Yes.
bit of fun today, even if it feels intense, just like even if it's for 5 minutes, put on your favorite song, dance around your living room, allow yourself to just be free, have a little fun, let your inner child out to play. And on that note, thank you so much for joining both Stephanie and I this morning, for aligning with the energy, for making the choice to be aware of what's going on in the world and better yourself. You are doing the work just by being here. I'm proud of you. I'm grateful for you. And I'm excited to see what comes from today's full moon. So that's going to do it for today's live stream. I hope you have a beautiful day under this beautiful full moon, and I will see you right back here tomorrow morning. But until then, stay curious. Thank you so much for joining us and aligning with the energy of the universe today. If you enjoyed this morning's episode of Transits Today, you can join our live astrology discussion every weekday morning right here wherever you're watching. And head to thespiritualjournalist.com to read your daily astrology forecast and browse the Spiritual Shop. The most fun way to help keep these forecasts free and support more content like this is to buy yourself a little something on our website. But if you're feeling extra generous, you can also buy me a coffee to fuel future live streams. Just tap the link in the description or head to buymeacoffee.com and search The Spiritual Journalist. And speaking of, you can also tune in to The Spiritual Journalist, our weekly live interview where we ask our guests questions about everything from crystals and manifestation to mental health and the environment. Those conversations stream live right here wherever you're watching now every Tuesday. I'm so grateful you found us here, and I can't wait for our next conversation.